Welcome back. In today's video we're going to be looking at the exceptionally warm Montane Fortes XT. So the Fortes XT is an exceptionally warm synthetic insulated jacket designed to be used in extremely cold conditions for a prolonged period of time where the weather really is against you. What we're going to do is chat about the fabrics and insulation, and then we'll move on to some of the features of the jacket a little bit later on. So firstly we'll start on the outside with the fabrics. So this is a very light 12 denier. To get around the sort of weight of the denier and to improve the durability, this is using a Barrier Tough Plus ripstop fabric. So this is a mini ripstop, so we'll show you some close-ups and we'll compare it to a normal ripstop, and you'll be able to see it's a much denser weave, so it's a much tighter weave, meaning it's going to be far more abrasion resistant. So it's going to improve the overall durability of the outer fabrics, which is going to be great for any of you that are using this as a winter climbing jacket. Maybe you're feeding rope over your shoulders, and that's going to cause some rubbing across those shoulders. This tighter weave means that there's less chance of that abrasion damaging the jacket. So that's really nice to see. On the inside, we're seeing an air permeable 10D inner, which is going to allow for warm air to exit the jacket, or warm moisture, sorry, to exit the jacket to make it a far nicer place to be if you do end up working really hard on the jacket and you're creating lots and lots of body heat inside. So to make it less sweaty and less clammy, that's going to help the jacket breathe far more efficiently. And then we move on to arguably the most important thing, which is our insulation. Now this is using a Primaloft Gold insulation, so an extremely high standard of synthetic insulation. For those of you that don't know, synthetic insulation tends to handle moisture far better than down. Down, when it gets wet, compresses and tends to lose its warming properties, which isn't the case with synthetic insulation. So if you're using this jacket in a wet or damp environment, the synthetic insulation tends to be, most of the time, a better option. You do trade off some of the packability and weight, which tends to be where down is a better option. So Primaloft Gold gives you a really good amount of mobility, so it's got a good amount of stretch to it. So for those of you that are looking to use this as a climbing jacket, it's going to be unrestrictive. It's going to stretch and move with you as you're climbing. It breathes a little bit better as well, and it tends to be a little bit more durable overall as well as an insulation type. You can be a little bit more aggressive and unforgiving with a synthetic insulated jacket. The next thing to talk about is the fact that it is body mapped. So the core areas of the jacket are using 160 grams per square meter of Primaloft Gold. So when I say core areas, around the body, areas we want to make sure are nice and toasty, down the outside of the sleeves. And then areas that we don't need quite as much insulation, areas that tend to be a bit warmer, we may want to breathe a little bit better. We're seeing 60 grams per square meter. So under the arms here and in the hood as well. What that does is those areas where we don't need as much insulation, we're removing a little bit, which is going to help keep the weight of the jacket a little bit lower. This jacket weighs 565 grams in a size medium. We're also seeing an acrylic coating on the outside of the jacket to give you a higher level of wind and water resistance. This is by no means waterproof, but it's going to shed moisture far better because of that acrylic coating. So if you are working in a snow environment, snow is building up on the shoulders, it's going to allow that snow to bead off as it melts, which is really nice, rather than it soaking straight into the jacket. It's also going to help keep the wind off, which is going to mean that the jacket is overall a little bit warmer. Now what we're going to do is jump into some of the features of the jacket, and we'll talk about those as we make our way down. We're going to start at the top with the hood. So hood-wise, we're seeing a fully adjustable helmet compatible hood. So if this is going to be a climbing jacket for you and you are going to be using a helmet, this hood will fit nicely over your helmet. We've got 3 points of adjustment. We've got one at the back here, which helps control the volume of the hood. And then we've got two stitched in toggles and draw cords. So they're stitched into the jacket to avoid any snag hazards. In case you're climbing with this, you don't want any hoops and loops that can get snagged and caught, and allow for really easy adjustment around the sort of frontage of the hood. On the front of the hood, we've also got a semi-rigid brim at the top just to help shed any moisture. So if you are getting some build-up of snow, or it is a little bit wet and rainy, that water is going to be shed straight off the front of the hood rather than running off the hood and straight down your face, which is a really nice little feature but makes a big difference. Coming to the front of the jacket, we're met by a YKK Vislon main zipper. So it's a two-way zip, so you can open it both from the top like so, and from the bottom. So we've got a popper at the bottom, and what this does is this allows us to do two things with this zip. First thing, not quite as widely used, is to ventilate the jacket a little bit. If you are getting a bit warm, you can open this a little bit like so and let a little bit of that warm air out while you're moving. But more importantly, it allows us to poke our belay loop out and use the jacket in conjunction with a harness. So if you are climbing and you need to belay, you can undo the bottom of the zip, attach the popper, poke your belay device out, and you have a quick clean and easy, safe access to your belay device and your harness, which is really important obviously if you're using this as a climbing jacket. Coming to the front, we're seeing a YKK zip Napoleon pocket, a relatively good size. You'll easily get a pair of liner gloves or any other essentials, maybe some food that you want to keep close to hand. I'm not sure you'd fit a really big pair of sort of winter gloves in there, but there's other pockets for that. We've got 2 lower hand warmer pockets, both with YKK main zippers. These are a good size. They come up all the way to this stitch line that you can see just here, and also relatively low on here. They are moved up slightly so that if you are wearing a rucksack, the straps of the rucksack or the harness don't interfere with the use of your pockets. So even if you are wearing a rucksack and your straps are coming around your waist, you'll still have full access to these pockets. While we're talking about pockets, we'll quickly jump inside the jacket. And you'll see we've got elasticated drop pockets on the inside. This is a really nice feature and a really good place to keep your hats and gloves. It tends to be a bit warmer inside the jacket, so it's an ideal place to keep things that you might want to keep warm, but it's also a good security pocket for items that you really can't risk losing. Obviously, if you put them in here, the only way for you to get to them is to unzip your jacket and remove them. So just be mindful of that if you are in very cold conditions where you don't want to lose a load of heat from the jacket, or you don't want to dump a load of heat from the jacket, that you don't put items you're going to need regular access to inside. You would easily fit a pair of storm gloves on the external pockets as well, so it's not necessary for you to always have them on the inside. Coming down the sleeves, we've got the Reach Plus technology from Montane, which allows really good range of movement from your arms. So like I said, if this is going to be used as a climbing jacket, you want a good range of movement with your arms, be able to reach far above you. So not only will the jacket not ride up massively when you do this and expose flash, which is going to be dangerous in really, really cold conditions, but it also means we've got unrestricted range of movement. So when you are climbing, it's not going to be uncomfortable if you do have to reach nice and high. They've done this by just putting a slight bit of extra fabric under the arms, so that when you extend your arm, it's not sort of pulling your arm back down. We've got extended sleeves, so that if you are outstretching your arm, the sleeve isn't going to ride up. And at the end, we've got a hook and loop cuff with a bit of elastication to it as well, which is really nice, so you can get a really good secure fit. You can do this up relatively tight, and the elastic will take any of that pressure out, which means we can get over the top of gloves, mitts, or without, if we are using it without, super, super easily, very, very comfortably as well. And then finally, we make our way down to the bottom of the jacket, and we're seeing a double draw cord, which allows us to adjust the hem of the jacket and get a really nice secure fit, stopping any of that wind-blown cold air getting pushed up underneath the jacket, and a good fit overall. Talking of fit, this runs under Montane's Mountain Fit, so this is going to allow you to put a number of layers underneath. It's a slightly looser fit than some of their more tapered fits, but it means that if you are using this, you can get it over the top of a fleece if you're just using it as an insulated layer, or if you're using this as a layer that you put on when you stop, you can throw it over the top of a fleece and a waterproof coat. It keeps you nice and warm while you're stopped, and you can take it off, pack it away, and get moving straight afterwards. Overall, if you're looking for a really, really warm synthetic insulated jacket that's perfect for climbing, but also a little bit of hill walking as well, this is a great option for you. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. And like always, if you could like and subscribe, it really does help us out. We'll see you next time.